Erik Ten Hag has managed to keep his job. Football Forecast has a new desk. It's a brand new season and I'm excited. Kwaku's with me, Kim's with me. Talk to me about this. This is sensational.
It is. We're like elevated, not only just in terms of aesthetics, but genuinely elevated. I feel like I can actually see you guys and talk to you guys. It's amazing.
It's lovely. Can't complain. Literally can't complain.
Thank you, bosses.
Keep getting told that my shop looks amazing. So I'm buzzing. I'm delighted. Let's talk about United against Fulham. Friday night kickoff. The Friday game used to be Arsenal. Remember when Arsenal played Brentford? That long throw in, Ben White missed it. I think Tony scored and they were like, I think Gary Neville said, they're too soft. They're never going to touch anything. He might have to do that this weekend when Manchester United play Fulham. What have you made of Manchester United's transfer window? Because a lot of people are looking at it going, they're still missing something.
I think they've done quite good business, actually. I think De Ligt's obviously a great signing. Xerxes is a player who I think we all looked at from afar and thought that he would do quite well in the Premier League. Yoro, obviously, a bit of an unknown, being only 18 years old and now suffered a huge injury, so he won't be there for a few months. And Mazraoui as well, who I think we all know is quite a good player. I think the problem with Manchester United is they have never made, in the last 10 years, they've actually never made a transfer better than he was before he played for the club. Every transfer they've made has looked really, really good on paper, and all of their stocks have decreased. I mean, look what's happened with Jadon Sancho, somehow now back in the squad. But I don't think Manchester United have made any players better in the last decade or so. So you don't really know where you stand with them. I think the transfer business has been quite good. I think they still have a lot of gaping holes. I think Onana didn't pull up any trees last season. We don't know what he's going to be like. I think Rashford's not performing particularly well. Fernandes seems a little bit lost in the middle. He's kind of the only one who can create something. I think they played really well against City on Saturday. I think actually they were pretty unlucky to lose the game. With some better finishing from Marcus Rashford, they probably would have been out of sight at half-time, certainly towards the end of the game. But yeah, I think the fact that Ten Hag is still there after 3 months of them trying to get rid of him and trying to find a new manager and then giving him a new contract because they couldn't find anyone better is not a great basis to start a season with. So I'm really not sure. They're a massive unknown for me this season.
It's a really weird situation for United because, like Kim said, they were actually, from what we've seen, trying to let go of Ten Hag and trying to get other managers in. They couldn't attract anyone else. They kept Ten Hag. They come into a new season and they've actually they've doubled down and said, here's a load of cash. Go and buy all your boys from Ajax, all your contact lists, all your favourites. Bring them here and we'll try and make something happen. And then I look at that and go, so then what does success look like then? Because they have won trophies under Ten Hag, but in the league they've been abysmal.
They have to compete, and this is Manchester United, and we know the noise.
Compete for what though?
Compete in the league. Compete in the league because the trophies can placate you to an extent, but unless it's the Champions League or the Premier League, eventually fans are going to get frustrated. Man United is supposed to be the biggest club in the world, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and they've struggled over the last couple of seasons. Granted, last year he saved his job by winning the FA Cup, but take your mind back to the semi-final where they were minutes away from going out to Coventry, and that would have been a completely different narrative. Overall, I think Manchester United are a club going in the right direction. I like the signings they've made. I think Xerxes is a great signing. Len Euro, like you said, is an unknown, but it's a positive sign in comparison to the signings Manchester United have been making over the past few years. One thing I will challenge, though, is over the last 10 years, I agree, their transfer policy has been abysmal. Bruno Fernandes is that one player that you say has improved at Old Trafford. But the issue Manchester United have had for the last 4 or 5 seasons is that he is still their best player. I don't think you can get to where you need to get to in the Premier League in terms of competing if Bruno Fernandes is your best player. I think the goal for Man United as a team is to maybe have someone emerge this season as their best player. I think Kobbie Mainoo is well on his way. But if Bruno Fernandes is still Manchester United's best and most important player come the end of the season, then it won't be a great season for Manchester United. That's not me denigrating Bruno Fernandes. He's a great player, been a great servant, gives you numbers. But they need to go in a progressive direction. And that progressive direction is somebody who makes good decisions on the ball consistently, which they've not had from their midfield area. And so going into the season, like with all other teams, there's unknowns when it comes to Manchester United. But the thing that I think will hold them back is their manager, unfortunately. Last year, granted, he won the trophy, but it wasn't progressive football. They got bullied in every game they played in. And they've tried to address that by bringing in physical signings. You look at the size of Xerxes, you look at the size of Lenny Euro, of De Ligt. They're players that add that physicality that Manchester United have missed over the last few years. But I think that Erik Ten Hag's failings when it comes to tactical nous in the Premier League means that Man United will fall short unless they replace him.
It's an odd situation because we spoke about this a lot last season about emptying the midfield and essentially surrendering the central areas in games that United should actually dominate. And dominating a game is probably their biggest problem under Ten Hag. even this game, they come up against Fulham at home, Friday night, you're thinking, go and like put your style on the game. But Marco Silva, you know what he's going to do. And you know exactly what he does. And Fulham, in all of the fixtures last season, I think they met in the Cup as well, caused United all kinds of problems. And so I look at this and I go, yes, you've brought in new players, but like Kweku said, the philosophy for me has to change, and I don't think that will change.
No, I completely agree. And you said that you think Man United are moving in the right direction. I don't think they're moving in any direction. And I think the reason that they're not is because of Ten Hag. We discussed it at length last year. I don't understand what the system is. I don't understand what the style of play is. And spending 100 million, 200 million on different players to fit into this non-system as what I actually think it is not going to make that any better at all. I find Ten Hag's football really difficult to watch at times, and they lose so many games against teams that they should clearly be beating with the 11s that are on the pitch. He can do great things, like we've seen him win the FA Cup. We've seen him in individual games get the better of elite managers like Pep Guardiola, like Arteta. But his overall style or lack thereof is going to hurt Man United again this season.
Well, to play devil's advocate and for people who are Ten Hag disciples, what they'll point to is...
Are there many of those?
There are still a few of them, because especially Manchester United fans at the back of the season where they won the FA Cup, they're like, let's give this guy a chance. In his first season, finished third, won the League Cup, got to the FA Cup final, which they lost against City. In his second season, granted, wasn't great in the league, finished 8th, but won the FA Cup against City in the final, which was a great performance from that Manchester United side. Mikel Arteta has been at Arsenal for 4 or 5 seasons. Has won 1 trophy. That was in his first season. That was Emery's team.
Yeah.
And so if you look at the last 3, 4, 5 years in English football, the 3 most successful teams have been Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City. What do those 3 teams have in common? They gave their managers time.
Yeah.
And so to get anywhere in football and to really embed a philosophy at a football club like Manchester United, you need to give a manager time. So for people who are on the side of keeping Ten Hag, they'll point to the fact that Arteta wasn't great in his first 2-3 seasons, but it took his 4th season where they finally pushed on. And so you need to give managers time if you want to see success. I just don't think he's the right man.
I think the difference with that is Arteta's first few seasons may not have been fantastic, but you could see very, very clearly from day one exactly what he wanted to do. Sometimes it wouldn't work because the players weren't quite there. I still don't understand what type of manager Ten Hag is. Yeah. What is their style of football? What does he want to do? How is he going to make that team progress? And how is he going to make that team regularly challenge for Premier Leagues? I just don't think he's going to be able to do it.
A lot of the time, the debate last season was, can they win trophies or can they compete for the league with Bruno Fernandes and Rashford? And obviously, you just alluded to there, Bruno Fernandes still being the best player in this team. Rashford is still out of form. There are some worries. Let's give Fulham some love. They lost Palhinha this season. You mentioned they lost Mitrovic last season. I look at that Fulham team and I go, and they lost Tosin as well this season. And I'm going, how are they going to do it again? Because I thought they were really good last year.
It sounds crazy as well. Lost Tim Ream, a player that nobody thought would be able to do it when they returned to the Premier League, and he was very, very important for them. So lost Tosin, lost Tim Ream, and lost Palhinha, which is a devastating loss. But they would have known that he was going to leave the season. Obviously, he was supposed to leave last year. They couldn't get the deal done with Bayern Munich. But this is a Fulham team that have made some interesting signings. I like Smith Rowe. I think that if you look at Smith Rowe's numbers when he was at Arsenal, they were in the mud. They were 15th in that 2021 season. They introduced Smith Rowe into the first team. Their win percentage with him in the first team as a starter was 67%. When he was out of the team, it went down to 30%. So it shows that he's a player that is effective when he's fit. He hasn't been fit the last couple of years. Unfortunately for him, Arsenal went in that direction. He went in that direction. He kind of plateaued. But I like that signing. It's going to be interesting as well to see if Scott McTominay plays. He was of interest to Fulham. Yeah. He scored a goal, scored a penalty in the Community Shield. And he's a player that I think would actually work at Fulham. Not getting on the ball, but being able to make those late runs into the box. And I think that's what they need. They've lost, I love this word at the moment, physicality in the form of Palhinha. But I do think that they need to add something. There's something missing there. I like the return of Sessegnon. I think that's a great re-signing. I think that he's going to hit the ground running as well. He's a club that he knows very well. But I think they're just missing a spark. And I think if they want to improve on their 13th place finish last season, they need to bring somebody else in the transfer window.
Rodrigo Muniz last season. Yeah. Interesting purple patch. One of those where like he was scoring overhead kicks. He was scoring some of the craziest goals I've seen. That's my concern for Fulham, is where are the goals going to come from? Because Mitrovic, obviously, as I said, left last season. I think Pereira chipped in, Rodrigo Muniz chipped in, Iwobi had a little purple patch. Raul Jimenez, my boy, came back, did bits. I love that man. Yeah, he's just one of these players that he was so unfortunate with his head injury. And then last season, I think he finally got the courage back in him. He was attacking the near post. But I do worry, like, where will they get the goals from this
Do you
season?
think he can score enough goals for them, or do you reckon they need to go out? And
I think they need to get another striker. I think, like, you know me, I've been saying this over and over again. If you want to do well in the Premier League, go sign a striker and get you 15 goals. Eddie Nketiah is right there. That is the man I think Fulham should go for.
I think that'd be a really good signing. I think with Fulham, I think they're going to be relatively untroubled this year. I think their star player, if it is Marco Silva. I think he makes the massive difference for them. He's such an adept manager. The fact that he could lose Alexander Mitrovic and perform the way he did last season probably is going to be exactly the same without Tosin and Paulinho. I think he's a really, really good problem solver, and I think he'll do it again this year. I don't expect them to like pull up any trees or even really probably finish in the top half, but I think they'll be absolutely fine. And I think they'll continue just playing good football that they play, beating the teams that they should beat, putting on some really good performances against some of the bigger teams like we saw against Arsenal last year. I just think they'll be pretty middle of the road.
Well, let's get some predictions.
Tough one.
Yeah,
it is. They're always tough at this stage in the season. You don't want to throw your neck on the line, but sometimes you have to.
Friday night football under lights though, it's just a funny fixture.
It's a weird one.
Everybody's
It's at Old
watching.
Trafford.
It's
Old Trafford. If it was at Fulham, it'd be different.
But we saw teams go to Old Trafford last season and get results. They were very, very poor at home last year. And so under the lights, when everybody's watching, there's a lot of pressure. The first touch is not the same. The first touch is a safe one. We've been talking about football analogies the whole day today. And your first touch is going to have to be very, very conservative because you haven't played football for a long time, Premier League football at least. And so if you ask for a score prediction, I'm going to go conservative with it. I'm going to go 1-1 draw because I think Fulham are going to have something for Man United.
I'm going to go, and I'll explain it in a second. I'm going to go like 3-4-0 to Man United because this is what Ten Hag does. It has a massive purple patch. The fans get gassed. The fans get excited. Oh, we're going to win the league. We're going to win the league. And then when it matters, they tail off. So I think United are going to start the season incredibly strongly. Kobbie Mainoo, obviously, incredible Euros, one of the best players in the league at the moment. I think he'll fire them forward. I think they'll play really, really well. First few games, win very comfortably. I reckon this one like 3-4-0.
Fulham just kept getting done by United last season. They were really unlucky, and I think it'll happen again. I don't know why. I get this feeling Friday night football, first game of the season. I actually think it's going to be drab. I've got a feeling it's going to be a tired weekend. So I'm going to go 2-1 United, but one of those where you're like, might just switch telly off. Let us know what you think.